Oh, I didn't see you there. Wait, who are you? Aquí?
Yes. Who are you? What makes you you? One might say that the things we like, our personality, your name, your genes, the way you were raised. But all of those answers are wrong. What makes you you is your culture. Now, what is culture? If you look at the definition from a dictionary, you will find that culture is the way of life, especially the general customs and beliefs of a particular group of people at a particular time. I know, a bit loosey goosey. But today we would like to talk about what Sonia Nieto understands as culture, and most importantly, how culture is influenced by social, economical, and political factors, and how it's learned. According to Sonia Nieto, culture is often taught as a product in place and as something handed down that must be kept the way it is. She also points out that culture is not handed down and it's not inherited. Like Edward Burnett Taylor, a famous anthropologist, will say, culture is not biological. We do not inherit it. Much of learning culture is unconscious. We learn culture from families, peers, institutions, and media.
To begin with, we would like to talk about how culture is clearly learned. According to Gillette S. Bourlet, there are three ways one can relate to the country's culture. Confront. When you believe your behaviors are the right thing. That we can see with these dogs. They think that the flamingo's behavior is right, and therefore start trying to learn how they behave. Complain. When you isolate yourself in a bubble. This tends to be seen more in people who have very nationalist ideas and refuse to partake in some other kind of culture. Conform. Adapt your way to behave. Taking this attitude means you can benefit from diversity because you can observe, learn, and understand the behaviors of others and then consciously adapting your own. Going back to the dog example, they began adapting to their environment, and we can also see this with this dog.
Latsam Billings G., a teacher that has implemented a culturally relevant teaching strategy, states that students should develop a critical consciousness of culture surrounding them so that they can improve the way they learn culture and be able to adapt the best of it to themselves and their way of living. Chomsky also declares that culture is heavily learned and influenced by the influential political figures of different countries. But that's no longer just a definition of how culture is learned. So why don't we change the topic? Let's talk about culture being influenced by social, economic, and political factors. Naomi Aso, a traditional Japanese dance teacher, had the opportunity to study abroad in the US when she was very young. She would dress, as she says, like a regular student, and no one dared to talk to her. But one day she performed in her school's talent show, and she wore a kimono, and that's the day it all changed. The other kids saw her wearing a kimono and performing a traditional dance. They started to ask about her culture and care about it. They showed interest in it all because she had suddenly shown a different side of her social life. According to Siona Nieto, culture is bound to a particular context. It's greatly influenced by the political, historical, and economic conditions in which it's found. Of course, Naomi also had a different culture based on where she was born, and when she came to the US, she made their culture more diverse. Cultural diversity can lead to better problem solving society due to the different perspectives that are involved. However, the problem is being able to communicate well together. This you do by explaining cultural differences. Of course, all of these points of view were made by anthropologists and experts on the subject, but we, as citizens of a globalized world, also have our own point of view. So why don't we hear it out?
So, tell me, how do you think someone can learn a culture?
I think nowadays, in the world that we live in, surrounded by technology, it's a lot easier to learn about culture. You can simply do a Google search and you can learn something. But also, I feel since we're becoming more international, just as not just as a country, but like as a society, a lot of people come and visit us, and we can learn from them, and they can learn from us. I think it's a very important aspect of who we are as a generation nowadays.
Okay, so I think this mix of these two things affect how the human being behaves. Because if you have some idea, like you are, for example, a communist, then you bump with a neoliberalist, a person who sympathize with the right wing of the politics and the other one with the left. So how you gonna interact? How you gonna communicate? That's gonna cause like a lot of friction. So there are like two like very different way to see the world. Totally different love of each other. I think that's why you because try to merge together different ideals. It's gonna take hard. So you try to fit in with the majority. You don't have this kind of
So, the popular opinion that younger generations don't have culture, could it be blame of globalization?
Maybe because like nowadays there are like a lot of technologies that influence this aspect that didn't exist in the past. So I think maybe it can influence it.
Okay, so you don't think it's actually just the opinion of older generations?
No, I think it can. It is almost a fact. Maybe.
Okay, well, thanks for your time and please keep enjoying the grass.
Okay. Thank you.
The next one is, well, how do you think your culture fits with globalization? You know,
Well, I think globalization is a really tricky subject because for some, it's like culture of some countries is being lost. Like for example, Mexico. To me, it's not being lost. It's just being richer. It's getting not better, but
more complex.
more complex. Exactly. Because for example, with Halloween that's coming up, like the richer communities celebrate Halloween, and while the poorer or the not so rich ones celebrate Dia de Muertos. And there are some that celebrate both. So it's interesting.
And it depends because of your social.
Well, I think it does because of your social and economical position in society. Because, well, let's face it, a child that comes from rich parents will probably learn English. And, well,
He will learn from other culture.
Exactly. Yeah.
This culture where they speak English,
Yeah.
their traditions, their Halloween. He will celebrate it.
yeah,
He will
exactly.
forget about Dia de Muertos, maybe.
Maybe not forget about it, but definitely push it aside.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Well, you're welcome.
En la cultura se nace, o sea, se nace dentro de la cultura y la cultura se va aprendiendo a través de muchas otras cosas, pero no nacemos fuera de ella, nacemos dentro de ella. y después la aprendemos. Depende mucho del entorno en el que se desarrolla el individuo, en el que esa cultura crezca.
This is going for the documentary.
Making of Bothering a Bellanito.
You can tickle him if you want.
Thanks, Sarah.
Pero súbale un poquito, no se oye nada.